All right, here is chapter 5 of Little Legends, Mr. In Boots. It turned out that the first light was actually really early, and nobody was awake. Second light had long gone, and it was almost third light by the time Anansi peered out through the tent flaps to see his parents cooking breakfast while Rufaro packed up the cart. Morning, Sleepyhead, called Red, who was sitting playing a card game with Quartz. How come you slept so well? I couldn't get comfy lying on the floor. I had a hammock, said Anansi. What? Protested Jack as he poked his head out of his tent. Not fair. How come I didn't get one? Probably because you can't speak to spiders, said Anansi with a grin. Thanks, guys, he called to a group of spiders who nodded silently back at him and started taking down the hammock that they'd spun out of a spider silk. Breakfast ready, called Adiola, Anansi's mom. Sausages and bacon, come and get it. The children all rushed over to take their plates and sat down in a circle around the campfire. How about you, Quartz? Asked Jack through a mouthful of sausage. Did you sleep all right? Yeah, replied Quartz, or at least I did at first. He paused for a moment. Why? Asked Red. What happened? Quartz's eyes went wide. Well, I was lying there in my tent when I suddenly heard this weird, rumbling, growling sound. It got louder and louder, and I got more and more scared until what? Asked Anansi breathlessly. Until I realized it was just you snoring, said Quartz, and everyone burst out laughing. What? Said Betsy, unusually seriously. You heard a rustling sound in the night when you needed the bathroom? Asked Jack. It could have been anything, said Red, but we should just keep our eyes and ears open, just to be on the safe side. She looked over at Quartz's plate, which was piled high with fried tomatoes, eggs, and beans, but no sausages. How come you don't like sausages or bacon? She asked. I just don't like to eat pigs, replied Quartz. Seriously? Said Jack. But trolls eat goats. I mean, come on, that's gross. Maybe, but humans eat pigs, cows, sheep, and hens, protested Quartz. Now that's gross. What? Squawked Betsy angrily. Exactly, agreed Quartz. And then turned back to Jack. I have a pet pig called Snout. Mom got her for me when I was little. She keeps my feet warm at night and listens to my problems when I feel sad. How could anyone ever hurt a pig? Quartz's eyes welled up a little when he mentioned his home and family. Red, Jack, and Anansi looked awkwardly down at the sausages and bacon on their plates. Jack slowly stopped chewing and swallowed everything in his mouth in one gulp before he put down his half-finished breakfast. Well, I'm full, he exclaimed suddenly. Let's get everything packed up. The sooner we get going, the sooner we can find Quartz's family. The cart was all packed, the horse was readied, and soon they were on the road. The first stop was going to be the site of Quartz's old village, so they could look for clues about where his parents and all the other trolls had gone. The only trouble was that they weren't sure how to find it. They'd been traveling for about a half a day when they saw a grumpy-looking cat wearing a pair of battered leather boots and a long, worn-out coat. They explained what Fish had done to Quartz's village and asked if he knew where it was. The cat's hair was matted in clumps and his eyes were cunning and bright. Maybe I do, maybe I don't, he replied with a sly smile. What's it worth to you? I'll tell you this. For nothing, though. If you're looking for that Fitch bloke, I know a lot of folks around here want a word with him. He's been causing a right old rumpus. He tried to take over the Marquis of Carrabba's castle. Course, I sent him packing. Ain't no one that can outsmart me. Anyway, I got places to be, know what I mean? He winked and then swaggered off. So is he going to help us or not? Whispered Anansi. I don't know, replied Red, but I always thought Puss in Boots would be a little more, charming and a little less grubby, asked Jack. He smelled like old cat food and bonfires. What's that, Sonny? Growled Puss from at least 30 yards away. Jack looked at Red in panic. Nothing, Mr. In Boots, called Red. We were just talking about my grandfather. That may be, growled Puss in Boots as he turned around menacingly. But remember this, I ain't the kind of kitty to play around. He broke off, distracted by a bright beam of sunlight shining down onto the forest floor, and pounced on the light, trying to catch it with his paws. Wait a minute, whispered Anansi. I have an idea. He rummaged around in the bags until he found a saucer and a bottle of milk. Then he clinked the bottle against the small plate. Puss in Boots looked up sharply and trotted over expectantly, his eyes locked on the milk bottle. Not so fast, said Anansi with a smile. First, you tell us where the troll village is. Why, you sly old devil, gasped Puss in Boots. Then he winked. You remind me of myself at your age. Fair enough, it's a deal. While he was lapping up the milk, Puss told them exactly where the village was and how to get there. The children thanked him, and the cart creaked off down the road, but nobody noticed the bushes rustling behind them as someone else ducked out of sight. They traveled all day, making camp as evening fell, and setting off again early the next morning. It was a long way to Quartz's village, and it would take forever to get there. Everywhere they went, they heard more stories about Mayor Fitch and how he'd been bullying people. It was the non-humans he'd always seemed to pick on. Talking trees, fairies, giants, and dragons. None of them liked him, not even the super friendly rainbow-colored unicorns from Happy Funshine Woodland, and they liked everyone. The sun was low in the sky as they pulled up the cart and started to make camp for their second night on the road, when out sprang a mean-faced little man with a short beard and pointy ears. Found you, I have. I knew that I would. He chanted in a sing-song voice which made everyone groan. Will you play my riddle? I think you should. It was Rumpelstiltskin. But we know what riddle will be, what but we know what your riddle will be, said Jack with a sigh. It's always the same. The little man smiled unpleasantly and twirled his beard fingers between his fingers. Is that a no, or is that a yes? Answer me true. You must not guess. He paused and added in his normal voice, actually, can you do me a favor and sign this contract first? I've been told I need to make things more official. You know, for the public's safety. Red shook her head impatiently as she took the pen he was holding and signed the contract. Okay, go on then. Yes, we'll play your riddle. Rumpelstiltskin grinned. My riddle is this. You'll face no blame if you can just tell me my name. But if you can't, then you'll face strife, as you will be my slaves for life. Then he cackled and capered and cartwheeled around, looking very pleased with himself. Your name is Rumpelstiltskin, shouted all the children together. No, it's not, replied Rumpelstiltskin, bursting with fizzy excitement. Yes, it is, replied Red. You asked us the same riddle about 3 weeks ago. I changed it, cackled Rumpelstiltskin. Now my name is Nigel, and you know what? It just feels so much more me. He smiled happily. Anyway, now you're all my slaves for life. So to start off, you can, let me see, carry me over to that comfortable looking tree, cook me dinner, and then one of you can trim my toenails. He peeled off one shoe to reveal the most gnarled, yellow, and fungus-covered toenail any of them had ever seen. What? They all cried. I'm afraid so, cackled the little man. Of course, if you've guessed correctly, I'd have had to do you a favor, but you knew the deal. He held up the contract Red had just signed and pointed to the signature. So tough luck, he jabbed Rufro in the belly and said, over to the tree trunk, if you please. I don't have all day. Rufro did not look happily. Wait, called Red. If you're all by the book now, show me the document that proves you changed your name to Nigel. I don't have it on me. I dropped it earlier in a river by accident, and a fish ate it, and then the fish got caught and cooked. So there's no way you can see it now. Sorry. I don't believe you, said Red, walking up so that she was standing nose to nose with Nigel. And that means this. She snatched the contract out of his hands and ripped it up. Doesn't mean anything. Well, You can't blame me for trying, protested Rumpelstiltskin limply. I don't know, said Rufaro angrily. I think I definitely blame you. Rumpelstiltskin stared up at the tall, angry troll who towered above him. Look, no hard feelings. How about I do you a favor and then we call it quits? Okay, said Red, her eyes lighting up. I know just what you can do. Do you have your spinning wheel? Rumpelstiltskin nodded grumpily. Good, replied Red as she looked around at her friends. Now we need to find as much straw as we can. Our good friend Nigel here is going to spin us a golden hot air balloon. Right, Nige?